Good morning and welcome to Women Lead TV, brought to you by Connected Women of Influence. I'm your host, Kimberlee Centera, of the series Workplace Transformation Begins With Us, where we focus on shared purpose, mindset shift, and collaboration to reshape the workplace of tomorrow. And we are so excited to welcome our special guest today, DeLinda Forsythe. Welcome, DeLinda.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, Kimberlee. And thank you to you and the Connected Women of Influence for hosting this series that brings so many women's voices to the forefront.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I know voices, women's voices, all those things are important to you. And there's so many things we could talk about with all of your wonderful contributions and awards. You are the author of the best-selling book, Inspiring Generational Leadership, which I'm so excited to talk about today, Your Guide to Design a Conscious Culture. And you've been the recipient of the 2023 San Diego Business Journal Business Women of the Year Lifetime Achievement Award. Amazing. And you've also been one of the top most influential in the top 500 most influential for San Diego and a San Diego icon for the Business Journal. So I'm so excited. Let's talk today first for our viewers. Where can they find you and where can they get a copy of your book?
My book, it's an Amazon bestseller. It was released in 2021, and you can find it on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. It's very easy to find. And I also offer a free book excerpt of chapter 1. Not everybody has time to read an entire book. And I think that chapter 1 is incredibly valuable. So I always say, go to my website, DeLindaForsythe.com, download chapter 1, and you're going to get a whole lot of great content in that one chapter. And if it inspires you, buy the entire book, because there's a lot of information. Each chapter is very unique, but chapter 1 really captures the leadership strategies that we engaged at Innovative Commercial Environments, or ICE. It's an office and hospitality furniture dealership located here in San Diego. And those leadership strategies were co-developed with younger generations. And we created this culture of mentorship, very intuitively. We didn't know what we were doing, but through working together with the mostly women, younger women at ICE, we crafted and designed a culture really that was very friendly to all generations, but especially younger generations. And it made us a very resilient company. We were on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America 7 times from 2014 to 2020, even during COVID, when nobody was going to the office or buying office furniture. We were still on the Inc. 5000, very resilient company. And it's really because of the leadership strategies that we co-created together.
Leadership strategies and environments are so important to me, right? It's part of what embodies our culture. So you and I are definitely aligned there. What do you think it was that was unique about this company that you founded? Because I think you and I were talking earlier about how leadership has to be intentional about creating these environments. So what was it about that environment and maybe some intentionality that you had around creating this culture where people could thrive and voices could be heard?
Well, it started with why I started my company in 2006. I was a single mom. My son had just been accepted into Georgetown University, and he had extensive higher education aspirations. And it had already been very expensive as a single mom living in San Diego to help him achieve the aspirations that he had to that date. And I knew it was going to be even more. And he went on to get 2 masters, attended Cambridge for his PhD, had a Fulbright. And, that was a lot of out-of-pocket money. So I was like, how am I going to help him achieve his goals in life. So ICE was always very other focused and always focused on the next generation coming up behind us. So that's how I started the company and why I started the company. And I think I know we talk about intentionality, but for me, it was very organic. The way we incorporated these voices of younger people at ICE. And they had ideas that I didn't necessarily understand or agree with, like work from home. We implemented that policy in 2015. None of my competitors were working from home, but they really wanted that policy. They wanted flex hours. They wanted more transparency when it came to our financials and the leadership decisions that we were making. And I believed in diversity before maybe that word was being really used a lot. And I liked those diverse voices, the diversity in our ages, the diversity of industry experience, because I tended to hire initially a lot of women that didn't have industry experience. So they brought this very fresh perspective to the industry. I had 20 years experience before I started ICE. So that we just organically developed these. And when I was thinking about retirement and thinking about next steps and succession planning, I had an employee that had started at ICE in 2008. So we started the company in 2006. She joined the firm 2008 as a full-time college university student and a full-time employee. Her name's Elise. And thinking it was just going to be a college job, and it kept evolving, and she stayed on, promoted to president. And it was really, that's kind of how our culture, again, organically evolved. And then she purchased the company in 2022. And the legacy that we created together continues on. And I think I think it's 75 million boomers are expected to retire by 2030. Understanding those voices, those younger values of the younger generation, I think is very important. And again, we just did it intuitively. And then as I'm getting ready to sell the company to Elise, decided to understand why were we so successful. And that's when I started studying conscious capitalism. And you said earlier that you were really interested in conscious leadership because that's what you engage at TerraPro. I mean, you're very much a conscious leader, and you're doing these things probably the same as me, very intuitively. Perhaps it's more of a female perspective, but it doesn't have to be. But creating a conscious culture, leading with conscious leadership, valuing all stakeholders, not just shareholders, but all stakeholders, your community, the environment, your employees, your vendors, all stakeholders are equally valuable. And then probably what I think is the most important value of conscious capitalism, the fourth tenet, which is having a higher purpose above just profit. And of course, we know you have to be profitable as a company to be sustainable, but you don't exist just to make money. ICE didn't exist to make money. It existed to help this next generation. And I think that again was just something that was intuitive. And we eventually crafted a higher purpose statement, which was creating space to transcend the ordinary. So we created physical spaces that transcended the ordinary, but we also created emotionally safe places that transcended the ordinary.
Oh, I love that, how you created space. Because I think there's an intentionality there, and I love how you're talking about, evolution. And I appreciate too that it can be organic. I think there's also a certain culture, a certain place, like creating safe spaces. I just talked about that, about how important that is. And so these were all things that, as a leader, you set yourself up that you were open to. And I remember a period of time before COVID where we went through the same exercise. We did our own trial of working from home and having people work from home. And unlike you, I was not open to it. I said, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but let's do the trial. Fine. Little did I know what was coming, and that there would come today where we're really 100% virtual, and we have been for a while. And so how do you manage that? How do you manage sometimes as a leader, maybe there's that initial resistance, and then recognizing, and you use the word evolve, recognizing, okay, wait a minute, I've got to take a step back. We need to evolve. We know that the workplace is going to change. So was there ever a point where you felt that resistance, just even as a person or as a leader? And then how did you get yourself through that to be able to say, okay, this is a change that needs to happen, and it's good, and it will benefit the company?
Well, yes. Initially, when Elise and some of the other employees came to us and said, hey, we want this work from home policy, and we thought that is the craziest thing. That's never going to work. It was a bad idea, but we mulled it over and we talked about it. And I think that for me, it has always been, I only know what I know. And I think I know everything, but nobody knows everything. We only know what we've been exposed to. And I never worked for anybody that had this kind of leadership attitude that I had adopted. And I did not do it gracefully or easily or anything like that, Kimberlee. We had a lot of dialogue about it, but that was one of the things that I took a lot of pride in, is that I always felt that that power should be shared. It's not power over, it's power with. So I kept having to remind myself, okay, this is what they want. If it doesn't work out, that's going to be a challenge to pull it back, because that is a concern. But offering those work from home opportunities starting in 2015, it was beautiful. I mean, it was fantastic, because we were growing so rapidly. We were hiring so many people that we were running out of workspaces. So this was kind of an opportunity for people to work from home, and they could work anywhere in the country. And we had never considered that before. So that opened up the world for us of being able to hire employees that were incredibly experienced, especially with the line of furniture that we started representing in 2017, which is Technion. We didn't have designers in San Diego that had Technion experience. We couldn't find them. So we had to hire designers outside of San Diego. So, and again, it was very easy for us to bring that talent in because we offered remote work options.
I think that's been for us on the TerraPro side one of the greatest benefits too, is it opens up so many new options for you in terms of workforce. So while there can be some struggles, there's also so many opportunities. And so tell me a little bit more about your book. And obviously you're seeing this happen in the workplace, and you're seeing the success, right? It was like, the ROI is there, right? And that was, I'm sure, very persuasive. So then how did you get to the book? What led to the book and writing the book?
Well, it started again, just research is because I knew these things intuitively, and I needed to be able to repeat what my leadership strategies were, not just internalize them, but actually express them. And it started as an internal document. And as I started reading, oh my goodness, I read, for every page that I wrote, I think I read 10,000 words, I think is what I estimated over the course of 6 or 7 months. I read all these leadership books. I was a voracious reader. And from that, I realized, conscious capitalism really aligned with exactly what we were doing. And when you think about responsible business leaders or socially conscious business leaders, it's in the forefront a lot more these days. I'm sure Patagonia, Chobani, oh gosh, there's thousands and thousands of socially responsible corporations, B corporations, that are leading with these principles. So as I started reading that, I thought, I need to leave this for the next generation of ICE owners, which I was hoping would be Elise, and it turned out to be Elise. And also for future generations of ICE employees to understand what we stood for and were those policies and strategies still in place. So I started writing it as an internal document, and it evolved into a book. And from there, I started to be asked to speak all over the country at conscious capitalism chapters and in San Diego. And it's been great to get that word out, because what I learned intuitively, you can read in my book and it'll save you, 10, 15 years of trying to figure it out. So that's one of the advantages of leadership books.
Well, and I have to say that I did get through the first chapter that you share, and I found so many great anecdotes and so much great information. I found myself highlighting and making notes, and I've got to talk to someone about this and someone about that, and I think it really aligned really with our company as well, where we've been so purposeful around creating values and being able to give people the language, this is what we look like and this is how we show up. And I think the other thing, I'm just reminded of this when you've done some of these things that you tried, I think also as leaders, it's okay to make mistakes.
Yes.
It's okay. I tell my people a lot, we're going to try this. We don't know how it's going to work. And so, but let's try it. And then we'll look at the data, we'll look at the results, we'll ask ourselves, was it, does it work for us? What worked? What didn't work? What pieces do we want to keep? And so I'm hearing that as well, being open to look at things and realizing that change can be embraced. And if you fail a little bit along the way, that's not a deal breaker, right?
No.
That's how we get to the
Failure
next
comes
level.
along with it. It's great to fail, and then being transparent about your failure. You're okay to say, hey, let's try it and let's evaluate it as a team. You're doing exactly how I led, Kimberlee. You're leading exactly the same way. As a team, you're crafting your strategies together and you're analyzing them and you're making it safe to fail. You're saying, if it fails, it fails. We'll try something different. And that makes it safe for them to fail. And that's when you get real innovation, is when you create a safe workplace, which is exactly what you're doing. So I'm glad you had a chance to read it. If nothing else, it's just going to reinforce what you're doing, because you are a conscious leader.
Well, and I think too, everything that you're talking about, we know there's going to be changes in the workforce. We know that there's going to be some huge shifts as baby boomers retire. And so, anyway, well, this has been so wonderful. And that is our show for today. We could just keep going, right? There's so many great things we could talk about. That's our show today. And thank you, DeLinda Forsythe, for being our fabulous and inspirational guest. We love it. And thank you to all of our viewers that joined us live. It's been my pleasure to be your host today. And have a great rest of the week. And a reminder that transformation begins within each one of us. So keep growing, keep learning, keep exploring. Until next time.